The whole trilogy is on.
Okay.
Brilliant. So what I might get you to just tilt it down a little bit more, and you can even turn it a bit that way. Yeah, that should solve mine. Great. I'll bring it down there for you. Get a bit of smile out of you. That's great. And then just talking away amongst yourselves. Ignore the camera actually.
Right.
Because it shots as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So Mates and Spaces, that's what they went
Yes,
with in the
yes,
end, weren't
yeah,
they?
yeah.
There was a bit of debate about it this morning,
Was there? Yeah,
allegedly.
yeah. Okay.
Last one.
Okay.
And Keith's not totally confident it's going to work yet.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Brilliant. Last one like that. Thanks for gravity too.
Are we taking some of these with us?
Taking them home.
Well, go to boys can get wet.
Where do you want us
We're
to go?
just
Right
going,
up the
we're going down to the end to get the cross. That one there.
Well, not all the time Junior Bernard, but mostly around.
Having to stand into your feet, rather than running to the card, which is like, just we're looking for our budget.
Program. And so then I get just suppose try maybe once every 2 months. Okay.
So it looks like
Oh, you are?
Yeah, so I have a summer school here next week or so. So we've got 20 European countries coming over. It's a good time for us.
Yeah.
That's the 5 countries coming today. Yes, I do.
so come around into a little bit of sunset. Great. Looks like they're soaring right over their heads. Oh yeah, that's good. Just tilt it a little bit that way just to stop that reflection. Excellent. Go on. Here for a picture
Good.
too.
So you're doing this workshop up that you're doing down at Lisa? Right, or next week? Next week. Ah, good. Great. Yeah, exactly. Really? Good.
Really?
Yeah.
It's probably just
Okay.
that people have Ireland on
Colin,
the
are you in
list
Canada
and
today?
then they go,
I
oh, a
might
conference,
take
good
a
one.
Take off my coat.
Sound you was on
See that movie Up?
That's where I want them right there actually. That's perfect. Perfect.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Well done. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
we can send on. In terms of, if, I guess, because the guys in the Commission Office would like to send out a release.
Robert Boyle was a scientist from Waterford in the 17th century. He's considered as one of the fathers of modern chemistry. One of his major achievements was his work to understand the relationship between pressure and the volume of a gas. That's one of the principles that will be at play today when our balloon heads off into the atmosphere. The pressure will decrease and the volume inside the balloon will increase, and we all know how that's going to turn out. To follow it all, go to talktoeu.ie. Robert Boyle was a scientist from Waterford in the 17th century, and he's considered as one of the fathers of... Robert Boyle was a scientist from Waterford in the 17th century, and he's considered as one of the fathers... Robert Boyle was a scientist from Waterford in the 17th century, and he's considered as one of the founders of modern chemistry. One of his greatest achievements was his understanding of the relationship between the pressure and a volume of a gas. And I said that a bit arseways, did I?
No,
Was it? Will I just pick it up, or do you want me to go
just
to
pick
the
it
top?
up, yeah.
One of his major achievements was his work to understand the relationship between the pressure and the volume of a gas. That's one of the principles that will be at work today when our balloon heads off into the atmosphere. The pressure will decrease and the volume inside the balloon will increase, and we all know how that's going to turn out. To find out more, go to talktoeu.ie.
Okay, what we're going to ask, I guess, first is the principles that we're trying to demonstrate by launching this balloon.
We're going to demonstrate that a pressure is inversely proportional to the volume. So if you increase the pressure, you'll decrease the volume. Now, in the 17th century, Robert Boyle discovered that if you decrease the pressure by 2, you'll increase the volume by 2. Let me do that again.
Okay, so it's
I
direct.
do the way around, which
Okay,
is easier.
cool. Okay, so we talk about the principles at work when we're launching this balloon, or I suppose what we're demonstrating by launching the balloon.
We're going to show that the pressure is inversely proportional to the volume. So if you increase the pressure, you'll decrease the volume. In the 17th century, Robert Boyle discovered that if you increase the pressure by 2, you'll decrease the volume.
No, you
We'll do that again.
If we were thinking, actually, no. So the balloon's going to get smaller on the way.
Yeah.
Decrease pressure on the way up. Okay, increase. Okay, so if you want to explain to us the principles that we're trying to demonstrate by launching this balloon.
We're going to show the relationship between pressure and volume. We're going to use these balloons here and show that when we increase the pressure, the volume will decrease. And when we decrease the pressure, the volume will increase.
That was perfect,
Okay.
except for the, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, just going to stop it for a second. Okay, so we'll just let that one go on, I'll send a shot. Okay, so we're going to launch a balloon to the atmosphere. What kind of balloon is it going to be?
We're going to launch like a weather balloon. We're going to launch it up to above 30 kilometers, so where the air pressure is almost 0. Now because of that then, the balloon will expand as it's rising up through the atmosphere and reach a point where it can expand no further.
How big does it expand or how wide? You can just chat.
Yeah.
We're going to cut this up anyway.
I know,
But is it
figure our
20
balloon models, we will
20
expand to 6 meters. So on ground, it may be like this size here, and our balloon will expand to over 6 meters when it reaches the top of the atmosphere.
So there are obviously a lot of challenges to launching a balloon that have to be overcome. Do you want to go through some of those?
Launching a balloon is easy, but it's getting it up to the right altitude is the problem. And the problem here is that as a balloon rises up through the atmosphere, up through to over 30 kilometers, it's facing decreasing temperatures. Temperatures can drop to as low as minus 50 degrees Celsius. And also we're dealing with wind as well. We're dealing with wind currents. And in Ireland we've rain and as we get above the clouds. Other challenges then is we want to be able to track this balloon and we want to be able to communicate with it. So tracking is important then, we can see how far it travels and where does it land, and then we want to be able to retrieve it afterwards.
What's the balloon going to carry?
The balloon is going to carry a communication, it's going to carry a payload consisting of a communications package. It's also going to carry, you're going to talk about, actually going to say about the display?
Yeah.
Phone.
So it's going to I suppose, a lot of electronics really, to a certain weight. So I just asked that question again.
You mentioned the display.
Yeah, it's going to have a display, so you don't have to go into detail on it. Just generally
Sure.
the point here is that there's a fair amount of weight.
Camera.
Yeah, camera technology. So the balloon is going to have a payload. So what's it going to carry up?
This payload will be about 1 kilo, and it's going to contain a radio tracking device. We're going to have a camera, and we're also going to have a display to show messages. Now, we're using the camera, we'll be able to take photographs as the balloon is rising up, and also when it reaches the upper level of the atmosphere. The tracking device then is going to allow us to see where the balloon travels and how fast it rises, and ultimately where does it land.
So it's the same tracking device that you use to find the balloon as to track it when it's up?
That's right. We use the same tracking device, and we also include a backup tracking device. So when it reaches the ground again, if all else fails, we can rely on this to find out where our balloon has landed.
And how is the balloon tracked on the ground?
Balloon is tracked, we're using, there's a couple of ways, right, but the amateur radio side of things, I think that's the most plausible, feasible way of doing it.
Yeah.
So I can mention that, right. So you can ask Ken.
So how are we going to track the balloon from the ground?
We're using an amateur radio transmitter which transmits little packets every 30 seconds or so, and each of these little messages contains the current location of and altitude of the balloon. And they're very, very short messages, and we can then decode them on the ground and plot this position and flight route using map.
So will people be able to follow that tracking?
Will this tracking ask that again?
Will people be able to follow that tracking?
The public will be able to follow where a balloon goes using an online ask again. You
So-
say, yeah, anybody can follow it.
Yeah. So it'll be,
And it'll
and
be a
you'll be able
webpage.
to follow it using, and you'll be able to see it on a map on Talk to You.
That's the word.
So will people be able to track the balloon themselves?
Yes, anybody will be able to track where a balloon goes, and it'll be available on a map on Talk to You. Dot. Say it
Talk
again.
to You.
What's the TLD?
IE.
IE.
Yeah.
Let's do that again.
So will people be able to follow where the balloon goes?
Anybody will be able to see where a balloon goes, and we will display this location on a map on talktoyou.ie.
Very good. So how much weight does the balloon have to bring up, and can it handle a lot of weight? Is that a problem?
Yeah, the weight, the payload, the amount of payload that a balloon can carry depends on how big the balloon is. So for our balloon, we can carry just over 1 kilo of payload, which is quite a lot for a balloon.
So the balloon has obviously a serious scientific side as part of this. I know some of it is light-hearted, but what science is it demonstrating?
We're going to show that we're going to demonstrate the relationship between pressure and volume. So what it means is that as our balloon rises, the balloon will expand because of the decreased pressure outside, and it will reach a point where it can expand no further and just burst.
Who discovered that principle?
In the 17th century, a scientist born in Ireland called Robert Boyle discovered this. He discovered the relationship between temperature, or pressure and volume. Temperature, do it again.
So who discovered this principle?
In the 17th century, a scientist born in Ireland called Robert Boyle discovered the relationship between pressure and volume. And he...
So that's been used ever since?
that's right.
So hang on.